just skip this one and cover it next time. But this was just, whether they wanted to do anything or what happened.
Well, actually, no.
Yeah.
It actually happened. It did happen. Yeah, it happened this past
So
Sunday.
just recapping.
Yeah, Lindsay attended it. She was going to recap it, I think. But
All right, we'll cover it in November.
yeah.
All right, sounds good. Okay, 3B, 2025 Town Superior Budget Overview from town staff and review PARC CIP projects. So I think Brian's gonna talk us through budgetary stuff and where we've landed so far. And I just wanna sort of preempt this by saying the money that's in here, the estimated funds available for various projects, does not include the bond measure that may pass, right? So if the bond measure passes, there will be a lot more money potentially available for various projects that will then help allocate potential.
Yeah, let's see, page 12. Yeah, 1 second. Yeah. I'll magnify that a little bit.
It's
This is really long.
There's some new hotels and going behind where the element was.
oh, that's good.
That should help out with revenue.
Yeah.
All right. Bigger? It's kind of hard because we need to see 2025 column and this stuff, but
I think it's good.
That's Glenn, I can read.
Sorry about PDFing in Excel.
Yes.
Can't hide columns.
yeah, so this is the first or the draft budget that went to the town board this past Monday for kind of the first reading of the budget. And now we're looking at the CIP projects for the pros department. As of now, this is essentially, kind of separate from the bond measure. So, should the bond measure pass, then, the priorities, or at least not to say some of these projects won't get done in 2025, but priorities will shift towards some of those things that have been identified to address with the bond measure, such as the North Pole renovation, some parks and playground improvements on a larger scale, and obviously some upgrades or some improvements to the facility here, and then public works projects. So should the bond measure pass, there'll be a process to follow with, there's the debt issuance is 16 to 20 million. So there'll be a process that plays out as far as prioritizing and what happens. But I think for Parks and Rec and for this group specifically, definitely the North Pole renovation will be the priority. If you look at, so if you look on here, pole reconstruction on line 96, there's nothing on there. But again, there's a reason for that. So, kind of think when we're looking at this, and this isn't necessarily a deep dive, again, it hasn't been approved yet by the board, but for the most part, a lot of this, there's not going to be much change on this. But yeah, CIP projects, kind of specifically, as far as relevancy to this group for next year. Let's see here, we got line 66 and 71, 66 playground park shade. There's 100,000 identified for adding some shade to a park in town or playground. As I can hear Leslie in my head, like shade is expensive.
It doesn't go that far.
It doesn't go that far. So, one idea could be to combine it with line 71. There's 100K budgeted for that. So, in theory, you'd have a couple hundred to work with on playground, park improvements, shade.
Brian, I have a question. Sorry,
Yeah.
I should ask you this earlier, but does that bucket, would that also be for any potential community park improvements, or is that a different bucket?
Yeah, that would, so the stuff that's kind of right after this, that discussion, yes, that would be applicable to these,
Okay.
more so, 71 playground improvements.
Okay.
Yeah, so with it, it fell within that budget, but I think we definitely look to Park to help us to work through this. And again, these projects can still, move forward to an extent, even if the bond passes, but again, like improvements at community park playground will look, you know, if the bond passes, I think we're talking a larger scale,
Right.
you know, renovation.
It's not just gonna be stuff around the edges.
That's
which
gonna be stuff
maybe
around the
100K
edges,
is
yeah. Or,
Unfortunately, around the edges. for
Yeah.
something like that.
So like the last number we saw for the community park for 2025 was 500. And so that was brought down and reallocated across other things.
yeah, I imagine so, yeah. I think a lot of things were, even looking, you know, further, if you look down the, yes, Brent, to your point, I mean, or just eliminate it altogether. I mean, you can see some of the stuff that was proposed, whether by staff or even this group.
Yeah, like
You know,
bathroom,
restrooms,
Yeah.
you know, that's a TBD, but that was taken out. Yeah.
You hope it's P.
Yeah.
No, so I guess my point in asking that was clarifying that without the increased budget, we've already budget from what we expected for park in 2025 has already been pulled back and put elsewhere
Yeah.
as like a full reallocation.
Yeah, I'm not positive on if it was necessarily put elsewhere, but or just reduced.
Just the overall budget cap came down.
Yeah, to get things to.
So I think a lot of our ability to do interesting stuff next year will depend on that bond measure. I mean, I think that's what it comes down to.
Well, yes, and where the allocation of it goes, right? Because it's general in its statement. I thought the last email actually summed it up pretty nicely. But there's no wedges, right? So we still would have to be going through processes and getting stuff and fighting for whatever.
As I say, potentially advocating, right? I mean, I think that's, you know, if it does pass, I think that there's gonna be a bit of a lamb rush.
What is the process for that? Do we know, like, how?
Go to meetings, town board meetings, probably. Pass motions here. I think that's probably what we do.
How much was,
So it happens in November.
the big segment in Purple Park? I'm sure it's about.
Oh geez, that's a good Leslie question. I don't know off the top of my head. Yeah.
But can you repeat the question?
Yeah, a little bit louder, Tim.
How much did we spend for Big Sagamore and Purple Park?
Big Sagamore is not completed yet, so I don't have that dollar amount. Purple was like 260 something, I believe, that we spent. And to just loop back around on the dollars that we initially proposed that PARC asked for and that are no longer in the budget, were not necessarily moved to other projects. They were just either decreased in amount or pushed out, you know, into future years in order to balance the budget.
So I think a related question is, let's say the bond measure does not pass. And so what I'm looking at here is, you know, 100K a year for playground improvements, for instance, for the next however far out it goes, right? Does that have to be spent like 100K each year, or can like we say, hey, it'd be nice if we saved up for a couple of years and we could do something more major?
Yeah, so it's 400 grand per year or something.
I think that conversation can happen. Right now it's allocated by year. But you know, we typically balance over several years with the CIP budget. So that's a conversation we can definitely have. And even if the bond passes, the board is still going to have to evaluate what that money, what those priorities are. It seems like a lot of money until you start putting really big projects like pools and streets on there.
Right.
Yep.
The trees, my gosh, the trees are the number one largest.
Trees don't like to grow here.
Well, and if you're like looking at this, like if you look at their estimated total of playground improvements was, you know, almost $2 million. And as of, you know, August 27th, it was way less than that. Yeah. So, I mean, I think to your point, Robert, it's just our part of advocating for what we think is good, which is, you know, the pools and the community park.
Yeah.
What is the 1.2 million in capital improvements, like the building maintenance and for park infrastructure?
What line?
Number one, 1265. So
Just maintenance, right?
Yeah, I think it's just, right, overall maintenance
it's
or,
way higher than previous years, so it must be a capital expenditure. We're building something.
Yeah, Leslie, that line 65, is that, that 625, is that kind of anticipating some of the drainage issues at the community center? Also doesn't think so.
You're looking at the 2024 line or the 20?
2025, 1.2 million.
Yeah, line 65, the
Mhm.
2025 budget.
No, that's the new building that they're proposing for Public Works and Pros that'll be,
Oh, I got you.
yeah,
Okay, yeah.
that's
Got
what
it.
that is.
Oh, yeah, PW, yeah, missed that. Okay.
Where's that going?
do you know where that's gonna go?
We know where the 500K went.
Yeah. What's
Nah.
the building? What's
This-
the building in the house, or what's it
Is
doing?
it, yeah, is it, where is it?
This is being proposed to be constructed in the wastewater treatment area down by Autry Park.
Okay.
Cool. Cool.
And this is just for, like,
It's for public works and parks, so it's, that's where all the maintenance stuff is gonna go for,
where's it currently? Or what do we currently do?
yeah,
I mean,
Alright.
staff are all spread out
spread out, yeah.
throughout town,
Where are we?
So they would all be in one place.
Yeah, we're building a whole new downtown, city hall, and then we are renting like the top floor of, like above Superior Liquor. Right?
We have staff at the upper floor of what we call the plaza, so that's next to where old Chicago, actually where Bambi's at now, so we're leasing space up there, but we have Parks and Rec, Planning Department, Public Works, communication staff, code enforcement, all kind of housed in there, not ideal. And we have some park staff, our parks workers are actually out of the old fire station in original town. Some of us are here, which some of that remains regardless of that.
That building.
And end of the day, we have to wait and see primarily what happens in November.
Mhm.
And then this would expectantly look very different afterwards. So when we go through from our conversation last time and we look at ideas, like we would want to be on record of, we want X
Yes.
for these things in 2025, should the budget come to pass, and we'll have some of those trade-off discussions. But
Yeah,
I'm assuming some of those parks, buildings, and those like outside of what we'll weigh in on.
yeah,
And
yeah.
we'll focus on what we can.
I mean, I think we can say what our priorities are pretty much right off the bat, which is pools, community park. And, there are some little smaller things that we cared about, like restrooms, right?
Exactly.
So, I think that those would be the things that we would probably try to push either through motions here, going to town board meetings, right? Being, just doing public comment after the town board meeting, like, hey, I'm on park, but I'm here
As a person.
as a person, right? As a citizen. So I think that's what it's coming down to.
I mean, line 91 and 92, I mean, this is maintenance capital. The park improvements line typically is, we kind of use that for some unexpected things that come up typically, but park furniture replacement, I mean, that could be something the group could assist with next year, identifying areas.
Oh, yeah, you were saying,
Yeah.
did anybody know of any, stuff that's busted?
Yeah,
Or
just,
old in terms of benches or?
Is 94, is that the community center drainage issue?
well, there's nothing identified,
94 parking
for 2025. So,
That's $100,000.
No, but for 2026 and 2027.
well, yeah, you have to wait till I don't know specifically, once the actual budget book comes out, these CIP projects, have more detail to them. This doesn't necessarily have the exact detail for,
What
especially the
is it?
years out. But
Obviously.
but yeah, that's typically, repaving South Pole parking lot or North Pole parking lot or, at parks or whatnot. But yeah, so I think, I mean, the bond passes, I mean, this group will certainly be busy. I mean, we've already toured, just four outdoor pools. And I apologize for, I mean, it happened really quick, for not necessarily looping in, you guys with that. It wasn't intentional, but there'll be, you know, I think the mayor joined us a couple of times. We saw some really neat outdoor pools, but, certainly, you know, as it moves forward, if the bond measure passes, you know, public engagement and could look very similar to, you know, the whole town hall format with being a little Sagamore, but probably on a larger scale.
I think
This
we
project,
will, theoretically will know if that happened by our next meeting. So
Yeah.
we could even start
Oh, yeah.
having that discussion at
Yeah.
our next meeting.
Oh, yeah. I didn't even think about that.
Yeah, well, yeah. We'll see.
Hey, real quick, it's what I hear between the lines though, what I hear is like North Pool's a priority. Sounds like the South Pool, what I am curious, like, I don't want us to blow our wad on the North Pool and then be underserved budget-wise out of that 20 million for the South Pool. How do we make sure that, we don't get super excited about all the North Pool renovations and then we're only left with a minor budget for our South Pool renovations? Because it just, the rhetoric is North Pool,
Yeah.
North Pools.
well, that's the, I mean, I think a couple things. North Pole's the older pole. It's the one that's,
It's the most.
getting long in the tooth, or getting long in the tooth, more so than South Pole, but yes. I think it's good for this group to advocate for keeping South Pole in mind. I don't think there's any, I mean, we can't do them both at the same time, so,
We just have to make sure you earmark enough money.
right.
And we're not gonna pass another one of these bond measures for quite some $20 million bond measure, so if we spend 12 million on the North Pole, $500,000 on community park, and the pros get stuff and blah, 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 and it's like, okay, you got $600,000 to replaster South Pole, that'd be a super bummer.
I think we'll be both responsible for advocating for our priorities and then also balancing them, right? And then hopefully the board takes our advice.
Well, it'll be over a period of years too, right? And so things will continue to ebb and flow with that budget, whatever the approval is, it's not all gonna be expenditure in 2025. A lot of that work could be laid out in further years. So
Yeah.
some of it'll be staggered, and I think we'll have to figure out what hits the agenda next month based on the outcome of the ballot measure. And then make sure we know that we've got our clear recommendations going to the board.
Exactly.
in November.
So it might be a future meeting next month.
Yeah, and the budget's been spent, I mean, that's the thing, I just don't, very rarely do people earmark stuff for future expenditures, like people come to the trough and they're gonna gobble it up, unless it's a really.
It's gotta be part of the plan, right? Some of those things will take time to do, especially in aquatics with the pools, and like, they're not gonna go as quick, so I think it's just part of the planning. But it's prudent to make sure we know what we want to do at North Pool and some of those ideas that the town comes back with, and then, you know, what the art of the possible is versus do you split it and do 50-50, or do you really go for bang at North Pool and keep South Pool alive for longer and try for it later? So,
If I bum out a lot of Rock Creek South.
I mean, no matter what we do, we bum out
Balancing out.
parts of Rock
Right.
Creek with every decision, right?
Exactly. Okay, I think we should wind this one down unless you have anything else.
Yeah, just one really, quick point,
Yeah.
quick point is the bond measure, I think I mentioned this last time, that, you know, I highly encourage everyone, I mean, whether you're part of this committee or not, but, on the town homepage, you click on the election information and, there's a link, to go to the sales and use tax ballot measure webpage. And there's just some great information on here, like, if you go to this, I dare you to go to this and then have any questions at the next meeting. It's very comprehensive. I found myself going back to this, within the last few days, just to refresh my memory, but there's some great information in here. A great FAQ question, kind of what's loosely identified if the bond measure passes. So, anyhow.
Sounds good.
Yeah.
Cool, thank you. Okay, so then we're actually not done with 3B. The other part of 3B is to review our ideas for future community park improvements. So someone was collecting those ideas.
That's me.
That's you. Cool. Did we actually get ideas?
Yes.
Great, okay. What ideas do we have?
I mean, it ranges from anything from, adding the shade on playground equipment like we talked about to, multi-level treehouse, just giant thing.
Okay.
That was all him.
I like it.
So, I mean, I don't know if we would want to push this to next week, see what more, it might be better because then we know exactly what is going on and, how much budget we do definitely have, and we can come up with, variants of ideas like, you keep talking about where, we have the extravagant idea, the middle level idea, and then our like basic, hey, this just needs to get updated type of idea. And I think that will put us in a good spot, to recommend to the board, moving forward,
That sounds good to
on
me.
those ideas for community park and stuff.
Remind me, so of the budget that we have, when we engage with design partners or even to get different estimates, that still comes out of
Yes.
that budget, correct?
Yeah.
Because I think one of the things that's a reality for a community park, like that park has a huge footprint. And then I do feel like we're probably undereducated as to what the art of the possible or the scope of that could be, to leave it alone versus take things up. And I feel like there's probably a minimum investment that we should push to make to understand what we should be asking for with the park. Because if we know if Purple Park cost $260, but it covered, whatever dollars per square foot, and this is where we are for community park, like I feel I'll say personally unequipped to say, I think we need $1 million, because a giant play structure could easily be that, or we could do things that are less than that. So I guess my point is do we need to do anything, or can we do anything now to start that process to get some like formal like estimates or ideas generated for community parks so that we can make a recommendation based on what experts in the day-to-day of this are really doing?
Yeah, I mean, I'll answer that. I mean, I think we're kind of doing that now with North Pole, and we've worked with a consultant, and he's kind of mocked up some designs that the board's reviewed. Just kind of very conceptual, but yeah, I imagine, I mean, certainly, I think Leslie is probably already on this, or at least having that in mind if the bond passes, with working with someone who can do that. Because we've talked about that too, like we will need to hire someone, a consultant, to, work up some options, because that is a huge footprint. Does one section maybe stay the same, and then we just focus on this area, or
before we even get to a consultant, do you think there's, I mean, naively, I'm like, okay, Purple Park was 260 something.
Mm-hmm.
I think community park is 3 to 4 times the size of playground. Is it 3 to 4 times the cost? Does it depend hugely on what we do? Like, is there any way you can get like a vague sense of like, yeah, this is maybe.
I think that's the change from like swags, right? And rational math to the reality of where things are several years later too.
Right.
And on that budget sheet, I mean, there was dollars in 2024 that don't appear to have been spent on things. And I don't know if that's from fire reimbursements or what, like, I don't want to go down that path, but part of me feels like if you could pay for that work to start this year, then we would have a head start on it. And then we would understand some of the allocations for 2025 as to what we would ask for instead of waiting to ask for that until 2025.
Is the desired schedule to get something finalized 2025 and completed and built by the end of 2025, or is
I
that?
don't think that's
No, I do this for a living, kind of. So it's, I mean, the process is really, because you're going through, and with this, there's a very like huge, like, community engagement aspect to it that will also be a really important part. And so whether it be, I mean, there are 2 ways you could do this. It's, you get a person to, kind of create a conceptual master plan in a way. And then when we do have the money and when the time comes, then they can take that master plan and be like, this is what we want, maybe refine it a little bit. But, at the end of the day, what you're saying, I think, is more of a conceptual.
Yeah,
like,
it's a
level
lot
of-
easier
I agree.
to edit than create.
Yes.
Right? And so to me, getting someone to do that initial creation that then we can ask questions to the community on, build from, to me, it makes sense to start that now, whether or not it gets done in 25. Because on our other spreadsheet, I mean, it included like refurbishing the restrooms and the buildings of the community park. It wasn't just the play structures, right? Which all of those things add significant cost. And so
what does that look like? Does that look like engaging a consultant like now?
that's where I'm asking. So if there's remaining budget, we're closing the end of the fiscal year and there's an opportunity to take advantage of it and get that ball rolling, like what happened with the pools, I think it just puts us a month or two ahead. And then let's be presumptive, if the ballot passes, like we'll be a month or two further ahead, because to Tim's point, if we don't know what we think we even want to ask for, that everything will be gone before we have a chance to do that work, would be my feeling.
Sure.
What's the approximate cost to have a consultant? Is it 20 grand, 50 grand?
I think 20 on average. Yeah.
So is that something that we could do?
I mean, Leslie and I will chat about it, you know,
And
'cause-
I can provide a little bit of feedback.
Yeah.
It is unlikely that we will have dollars available in 24 for a consultant. However, I like that you're thinking ahead, because what we can spend some time this year doing is putting together the scope of what you want that consultant to do. And just like we're doing some pool tours, we could tour some playgrounds, you know, before the snow flies in other communities, see what you like. There's some recently built playgrounds and we can see what the price tag on those were. I think for community park, we could spend every bit of $1 million on that playground, especially if you want shade. And we may need to look at shrinking the footprint down, because there's so much of that pea gravel there, and the pour in place is very expensive. So I think, you know, our desire is to continue to use the pour in place as much as we can when we renovate playgrounds, and to put shade in when we renovate playgrounds. So I think starting to look at scope for a consultant, whether we want a somebody to design and build it, or just a designer, and then we go out and you know, look for the product. All of that has to go through the procurement process, which takes time. So I would, you know, target the first of next year for actually spending dollars, but there's a lot of planning that can go on now.
So to try to wrap this one up then, in terms of next steps, would it be that, you know, you town staff, you're gonna come back to us and tell us, here's consultants and here's ideas for where to go look, or is this more something that you're expecting us to initiate?
I think what Leslie said is more like the discussion on what could that scope look like?
Yeah, so I think it's our job to kind of come up with a list of like the things that we want to see at like 2 to 3 different
Levels.
things, if that makes sense.
Okay.
I think is the most logical to come back for next meeting, to then make the scope to get it in before the end of the year.
That sounds good. So then we need to take your stuff you've been collecting and just sort of
Yes.
make that more formal and then have that. for everyone.
Absolutely makes sense, because like there's, it's so anecdotal. Arvada has this great playground. It's a huge splash pad, brand new bathrooms. But their splash pad is probably like 50 grand or 60
I
grand.
mean, it's also Arvada, which is a much larger.
So yeah, and then so maybe it's more worth it finding towns in Colorado that are similar to us in size.
Right.
That would be more beneficial.
Yep.
Like, you know, we shouldn't go out to Aurora and look at their new parks, because Aurora is giant. So
Yeah. Let's go for dinner.
yeah. Well, we can always find stuff here, you know, like, I mean, Purple Park is a great example. What do we like about that? What do we don't like about it? Founders as well. I realized that they added shade on their playground, like after I don't know how many years, but I was looking at the photos, I was like, hey, that wasn't there before,
It's not
so,
They had to rebuild that whole, large play structure, to put the shade in there.
yeah, so.
There's some of the Arvada ones, there's smaller pocket.
Pocket parks as well, yeah, we can look at those as well.
Okay, so it sounds like we have some next steps then,
Mhm.
maybe review the next meeting. Would you like anybody to help work on sort of making that small medium large plan, like, or just ideas?
I mean, I think I just need a little bit more ideas, and then we can go into a ranking system, because I think that really just works for
Okay.
us in that way. So maybe one more week to think of ideas, and if you go to a park with your kids,
Okay.
shoot me a text, let me know, and so,
Sounds good. And then our next meeting, we'll review it, we'll go over.
and obviously at that time, we'll know what our budget is most likely gonna look like.
Yeah.
So that's the good part.
Can we put things on a timeline? So like a bathroom is like 300 grand. So maybe not the bathroom, and shades are like 200 grand.
I want to get the ideas first, and then I just want to get all the ideas first, and then condense and figure out how we're going to, the triggering system of what that could look like for the scope for
Yeah.
Leslie and Brian, so.
Okay, sounds good. I think we can.
So we're gonna generate some more ideas.
Like for like
Next meeting.
And then I think part of what I would offer is we probably come up with like a categorization to put into that consultant engagement, and to just make this up on the spot, but like there's a refurbish, like make it a little better. There's a like renew, and then there's replace. And to me, when I think about the scale of what we could do there, like those are three separate tranches of work that are gonna have very different budgets, but from an order of magnitude, like refurbishing it, couple $100 grand. Renewing it, maybe $500,000. Replacing and really renovate, like that's when we're in the $1 million plus. And I don't know that we need to split hairs in that level of detail right now.
It's just the idea.
Just that, like, hey, there's some of these ideas, but if some of those are part of, we couldn't do it unless we replaced it, like we just have to put them off in that category.
Yep.
Right, that's really what we're asking for from a consultancy scope, right, is give us a plus or minus 100% range, so 100 to 200 gets you some paint
This,
and
yeah.
stuff. 400 to 600 gets you this. 800 to 1.2 gets you that, and that's then what I think we have to come back or be ready to talk about next time, to ask the consultants to show us what they would do in those spaces.
How much would the 25 budget change, even if the bond measure passes? Because of the timing on planning, I feel like 25 is gonna be 100% planning and community engagement for whatever gets done. And none of this is gonna be not a dime is gonna be spent except on consultants until 26. Is that correct?
I think we'd love to be able to, this might not be realistic, but I think we'd love to be able to start on North Pole after Labor Day, 2025. That's a pretty fast timeline, but, may not be realistic as things move along, but, I think with the bulk of what we saw in the budget there, a lot of those numbers for 2025, I don't think, Leslie, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't think those are gonna fluctuate too much.
Right?
Yeah,
Yeah,
if
so,
the bond
I mean,
measure
we got-
passes, yeah.
Yeah. But I like the idea of, putting ideas in advance, for whatever happens, but the point being 25 is not gonna change a whole lot, no matter what happens with the bond measure.
Well, and so it depends on the logistics of how the funding actually comes to the town when it's available to be spent, right? I'm not
You got a
up
bond
on.
for that, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but it's not, like, you're not gonna get it all day one, right? So that's part of over the years, we've got to plan for it, but
Oh, yeah.
I think we've drained it, right? So I've got on for next month, we'll come back and I'm sure we'll have to talk based on what comes out of the voting, what we would really discuss further in November on it, but we'll start with kind of our ideas,
What do we want?
grouping them,
Yeah.
and then
Right.
figuring out how we turn that into an ask for a consultant.
I think there's something to be said for asking early, even if the money's not available.
You can kind of guess how that money's gonna be spent. It's being another $4 million to fix Rock Creek Parkway.
Well, I think we don't know yet.
We don't, yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, yes, I mean, you can take a wild guess, but
I think there are ways that we need to advocate.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah,
Like maybe they're like, yeah, your idea is way cooler.
Yeah.
No more Rock Creek Parkway.
Just turn
I'm
it
kidding,
into a rock.
I'm kidding.
My point is we have plenty of time.
We do.
Yes.
No, and I
think
think,
All
and I think us talking to a consultant first, rather than just going straight into building, I think is more beneficial because we want to take time. And
Right.
I think the common theme through the list is, you know, we want something for everyone is what it is. And that is what community park is. And that's what community is. And so.
Do we have any idea of like open space? Because that's the other big, that would be the other big, so it's parks, open space and infrastructure. So do we know any, I mean, I imagine you guys would know. if
That's
open
not even,
space-
yeah, but that's, open space won't be under this group's purview though.
No, I'm just curious, like if they
Yeah.
got like huge plans too, like.
Like a friend over there and talk to.
We're gonna do a wildlife viewing platform. It's gonna be blah, blah, blah.
Let's not worry about that. Let's worry about our preview and maybe say, these are the things we want, right?
Mhm.
Make our best arguments. Okay.
Sorry, Jen, did you want to say anything? I saw you unmuted, but yeah.
Yeah, hey guys, sorry I'm on my way from Boulder, but I just wanted to say that the town is budgeting for not having those funds next year as well. So just to, even if it passes, we won't. It'll be a little while before anything's available. So I think you're on track.
I think to your point.
I don't,
Yeah.
I honestly don't, for me, I don't think we need to talk to consultants until we know what's gonna happen.
Yeah.
Cause that's kind of
Yeah. No, I think,
I love the ideas.
no, I think, you know, collecting our thoughts so that we can maybe next year talk to somebody, I think
Yeah.
is the best.
I don't want to say disagree. I'll offer that if we're not ready with what we want to do with some level of precision, then I think we end up behind in fighting versus being ready out of the
Gate.
I
gate.
think
So
I
I
agree
think
with
it's
that.
the balance. I think we have to keep advocating for what we want. And as Jen and other people have said before, like let the board tell us no.
Yeah.
But if at least this way, then we know what things from the list, if we only get a little bit, what we would do. But if we ask for and get a lot, we still have to know what we would want to do, right?
Okay, sounds good. All right, well, let's wrap this one up. Moving on. 3C, Park 2025 work plan. So this is sort of more just one of those be aware kind of items. We need to create a work plan for next year. I think that what I'd like to see the group do, this is one of those homework ones. We can send out a draft. And then I would just like everyone to sort of comment, think about things that they would like us to attack next year. Obviously, now a big one will be if the bond measure passes, what do we want to do? Even if it doesn't pass, is there, you know, certain things that we want to prioritize in terms of park improvements or whatever? But is there anything else that we also want to get involved in or do or plan to work on next year? So we can talk about it at our November meeting. That's, although I'm now realizing the November meeting got probably gonna get pretty meaty. So we may have to be efficient, but I think I'll just ask everyone to be looking at the draft and thinking of ideas for to add to that. And then we may have to be a little, not ruthless is not the right word, but we'll definitely have to edit it, right? And make sure everything is sort of, there's time to do everything.
What about, women's rugby, as we, semi-professional women's rugby is actually becoming a thing. And we've got this really awesome field, and to activate like downtown, to have like semi-professional, or how is this, how much is that field getting programmed? Can we think of some cool stuff like that?
I think that would be a great example of an item that we could add to the work plan. Yeah.
It seems like it's pretty busy. Just
I
on
mean,
numbers.
it is, I mean, it's used a lot by Flatirons Rush Soccer Club, Superior Rugby, which is an adult rugby group. And those are the most regular.
Yeah.
The most regular use comes from those guys, but, I mean, we haven't necessarily been approached by a women's rugby group. We typically don't seek out, you know,
Yeah.
certain groups, but, there's probably some creative ways to advocate for those type of uses, you know.
So when we get it, we'll just put our ideas in
I
them
think
and then
that's-
we'll go
yes.
over them and.
Yeah, I think what I'd probably do is just share, I mean, you know, Brian, you can give me your input on this, but I think just share as a Word doc. And,
Yeah.
hey, people just add their ideas, right? And then we'll kind of go over it, we'll edit it down. You know, we want to keep it manageable, obviously. But I think we can also be a little bold about, hey, yeah, we do really want to advocate for this or that or whatever.
So historically, December's meeting is not
Not a
meeting.
a meeting.
Mhm.
Given the potential impact of the budget measure passing the amount ahead of us.
Yeah.
Should we rethink that? Cause I don't think we're gonna cram it all in, but that might be.
Yeah.
Like, as much as we liked hanging out, and we all do anyway, using that time, cause then we don't have to shove everything in November. We can talk about what the outcomes are, be really crisp in November with some of the takeaways that we wanna do, and then finalize that plan in December. Does that work timeline wise? As long as it's done in the calendar year, we don't end up behind, but
Yeah.
I would just say between, like, in the week and a half from when we would know about the ballot success, so that, like, I just
It's a
don't
lot.
see us
I agree.
getting,
It's a lot of stuff.
getting the
And
answers.
as much as I hate to rob everyone of their free dinner, like I kind of like, yeah, it's probably.
We got lots.
I mean, we can bring
We can bring food again.
food.
I mean, yeah, it's not like committees don't have a meeting in December. I mean, I think historically the groups usually do either a potluck or like the historic commission or go to a restaurant. But if you got, I mean, yeah, it's on the calendar. I mean, if we can make it a little more fancy, the dinner.
Yeah, we'll make it a nice
Yeah.
menu with nice food. But
Yeah.
we'll still talk about
You guys
stuff.
want-
I think I'm in agreement with that. Does anybody sort of feel strongly about it? Because it is feeling like there's a lot of stuff now to do before the end of the year. And
Or there couldn't be,
We'll
right?
see,
Because
right?
Yeah,
what's on that
that's
list, and
We'll be
if
having
it doesn't
discussions.
pass,
Mhm.
like, we will be very limited
Yes.
in what we do. And I think, like, from where we all spend our time, energy, and effort as volunteers,
Yeah.
I would rather
Mhm.
wait to know a little bit more. I'm fine putting something up front, but like, once we know, then I think we can go
Okay.
hard if everybody's okay with that.
In November, we'll decide.
Cool.
Sounds good.
And just, yeah, so real quick, the work plan, especially if there's not gonna be a December meeting, it should be finalized, next
After
month.
November.
Then it goes forward in January.
Okay. So I think we will see if the bond measure passes. I think most of that meeting will probably be spent trying to think about how to address that.
Yeah.
And then we will have a December, or quote unquote real December meeting, right? Where we actually talk through stuff like the work plan. If not, then we can spend more time on the work
Plan versus, yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
So just make sure I'm following. So
Yeah.
we're gonna work offline as a group on the 2025 work plan
Yes.
under
That's
the
right.
assumption that there is no additional funding. And then we can maybe make a separate thing that is like our capture for if ideas, because then we're saying we
I
would
like
use
that. I
December
like that.
because if not, then we're done,
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
Rather than just wait.
Yeah, because
Okay.
I think we can put at the bottom in 3, below it, just have something
Yeah, and don't,
if.
exactly, and don't worry so much about exactly where stuff goes, right? We can figure
Yeah.
out how to program, our order of things. But yes, I agree, maybe, as you're going through it, just, this is like a parentheses, like if ballot measure, if bond measure.
Yep.
The work plan doesn't have your snazzy formula ranking.
No, you're thinking about the,
Prioritization.
prioritization, yes, which we also usually do. Well, that will look very different if we have.
Yeah.
Correct, but we can also hurt ourselves by having too many things, and I think we've got to really narrow down the
Yeah.
top 3 and stay focused on that.
Yes, I agree.
I think we're on at least top 2. We understand what those
I think we
are.
did a pretty good job.
Everybody's here for the pool, we get it.
We get that.
Okay, cool. So that's 3C. Just again, reminder, there will be homework on that one, so be ready for that. 3D, virtual or physical passport update. Tim, I think this
Yeah,
was.
so I looked at different options, and the things that seem to make the most sense are, there are hole punches with special, you can get special kind of shapes to them,
Mhm.
and there's also paper crimpers that have little seals.
Mhm.
And so doing a combination of what the US National Park Service does, with a paper crimper seems like the coolest thing. A hole punch seems like the most robust thing, like that's the thing's not gonna, get busted. But basically a little passport, and then you go and you go to each playground that would have like a little hole puncher or crimper hanging there, and you put it in your thing. You could model it after the US National Park one, which is pretty sweet. They use the actual stamp, so each monument and park actually has a little.
My son got a bunch of
stamp.
those.
Yeah, they're pretty rad. Yeah, so you could do basically the same thing, and then once you get, all the things, and then each page, I think should have a graphical design of each playground, so you stamp each playground, it would have information about like the amenities on there. And then people come here and get the swag if they get their passport filled out.
Okay.
I think the only difference, and then if we don't do the open space, we just do playgrounds. And I think we can probably find places to hang these hole punchers. There's enough, playground material. We wouldn't have to mount any poles or anything like that. We just stick one of these things. So it's pretty economical. I mean, it's hole punches. And,
Okay. So I guess the question is, so how to move forward on that?
we could put more like an actual formal plan and mock it up and get some prices and stuff like that. And we can say like, hey, this is something I want to spend $5,000 for this.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it makes sense on the 2025 work plan.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so then maybe you can mock it up a little more. And,
Yeah.
And then we can add it to the trajectory pipeline.
Perfect.
Sounds good. Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay. Great. Then 3E park swag order.
I think it's been spelled now so many different times.
It's not.
So swag is something different where I come from.
Yeah.
Right, in
Slicer,
terms-
well,
No. So I sent Brian over a couple things. So last we met, we talked about things that were truly usable, right, for the community, sustainable, not just things that would be grabbed and thrown away. We also talked about some stuff to help support the work we do on the committee as well as staff, because everybody loves the new logos and we want some cool stuff with that on it. So what I had was essentially, and these were all different options, and there's multiple sets of options underneath these, right? But for either staff committee, there's some various hats that we could easily put the logo on. And then I just opted, right, for like a long sleeve usable shirt that was usable all season round, right? Either for sun protection and or warmth. And so those were the staff committee items up at the top. And then in terms of our giveaways, I've found what I think is pretty reusable and helpful, like tote bag, right? In terms of taking stuff, carrying around, we put the logo on that. We did talk about the dog poop bags. Those are, you can see the second most expensive item on there in terms of how much they are. And I played with the quantities and the cost to try to get close to what I thought we might actually have after the expenditure. And so like price per unit, all that stuff changes. So dog poop bags are there. We talked about stickers like for water bottles and those things. I don't know how the town feels about having stickers of the town stuck on things around the town. But from a giveaway, those were actually probably the cheapest one. And then from one of the discussions, I remember we brought it up, but like some of the first aid kits where they just have like simple Band-Aids and stuff that people could keep with them. So the money went pretty quick, as you can see there, but I wanted to throw in kind of those, 4 options that we had talked about from different things. And those should all be links so we could take a look at them. And I didn't set them up with the logo or anything, but I captured the setup fee and the unit cost, and just so we knew where we were. The question I had, and I didn't know ahead of time, was like, I don't know how many things we usually give away, and how we would change, like just giving a jump rope and a Frisbee to every and anybody versus, making sure people are getting one of something that does cost a little more and uses our budget. But those were the ones that we kind of ideated, which to me all felt community driven, park related, because no one likes picking up dog poop in the parks. Everybody's always carrying stuff. Everybody loves stickers, and then we know splinters are still a thing. So
Do we want to do the graphic from the trailer?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. That's what we talked about. To be fair, like I couldn't find where there was less than a 24 quantity on like a hat that wasn't foam. So some of that I think we could do, or, look at other things, but that was kind of what it came back for. And I'm sure with staff and other people, we could get, those could get distributed and used between the committee members and staff, and everybody appreciates those. So that was what I pulled together for swag.
I like it.
Nice.
Very organized. Thank you. Do we want to move on this now? I feel like we could. You know,
My big question, I'm happy to, would be the quantities. And like, do we think it's worth having 100 of the poop bags to give away? Do we only give them to people who come to an event with a dog? And so if you're not actually out with your dog, sorry, like we may have to have some things like that for us as we're giving them away, but
The little dog one you can take.
you can click, it should work, just pull up what it is.
Which one?
The dog poop bag. As long as you didn't change the hyperlinks, it shouldn't send you somewhere. So like you put your logo, I was trying to stick with like the orange and gray theme. So everything I found either had like an orange or a gray option where we could keep the color, I think kind of the colors that are on the trailer. So, you know, those come, I mean, I got the dogs, everybody, if you see, has those little poop bags in. Thought those were, and I tried to find a non-dad hat. And so they had an orange one. And like, some of them print, some of them whatever else, but the cost difference wasn't really there. Like I said, quality wise, like I wouldn't want it to be junky, but if you scroll to the right, there's like an orange and gray one, or orange and graphite, that I thought would look really good with like our logo, right? So, we can send them out, and happy to kind of get the logo or work with the designer and get them updated and get them done. So the shirt you can pull up too. I tried to find something I thought would go good. There's some that were like more gender type, but just, you know, like a poly blend, comfortable shirt that we could wear out at our events or just even around the community. Same for staff. I thought they were pretty usable. This one had that heather graphite kind of color that I thought would go well, or, you know,
matches that.
I lose my design, right? But like we'll all have an ensemble to wear.
Yeah, that's great.
And then the stickers, pretty simple, pretty generic. And then the first aid kits, I looked for a couple different ones of those. I would just do like the white sticker with the logo. And then really the first aid kits were the ones I struggled with a little bit because they are pretty pricey, but these were ones that I thought would actually not just be junked away, right? Because there's a couple that hold like 2 Band-Aids and they're gone.
Yeah.
Whereas this becomes something that is there. And again, you've got that orange and gray. So I just felt like, you know, spend some time with our color palette.
So do we want to?
And the logo would go on that too?
Yeah, all of it's imprintable. So that was, you know, we could do, it's cheaper if you don't, but the setup fee is not that much, right? So for us to be able to do it and then kind of change how we do our swag would really be the thing, where if we have a passport and we want to, you know, think about what we would use next year's budget for swag for kids who are finishing the passport, that's probably different than what we would give away at events.
Right.
But there you go.
So you have a little more stuff than the estimated budget. We could drop stuff out, or we can see if we can go over. I don't know where we're at currently budgetarily with our $5,000 pot.
Yeah, there's 3,100 left, and then obviously Justin's going to CPRA, so I think hotel fee and some meal cost stuff will come out of that. So the 2,000 is probably give or take, you know, give a little more. Maybe low 2,000s would be probably safe. Getting it down to that.
Yeah, maybe just try and like maybe the dog poop bags and like the totes, maybe put them at a lower and just mess with the numbers to see.
Yeah, cost per unit goes up, and so if we
I forgot about that.
so if we want to try to come down, the reason I kept them where they are is because if you take one of them out, we're right on budget. It's not like I do this for a day job, y'all, where I get how it works. So we could say, let's hold on the dog poop bag or hold on the first aid. The other thing we could do, we could take off the stuff that we wanted to do for the staff and the committee, and that gives some of that budget back as well. You know, whether, you know, if the shirts come off and we just do the hats and we have a set of cool hats for folks, great. And then we can put stickers on a plain white t-shirt and call it good.
So
I'd say like maybe normally just to be giveaways, we don't normally get stuff for ourselves, like the staff.
Yeah, I agree.
So we just ask.
But we could though.
If we do, then we're totally good. It's $700.
I think you can cut one of the items can be cut, and I think there's gonna be room in the budget. I
Yeah.
went low at the 2,000,
Yeah.
so that we didn't, outshoot ourselves, but,
Yeah, maybe with the first aid kit, just because it's becoming winter, that it just like, I feel like kids don't really hurt themselves in the winter. But saying that, I did break my ankle ice
You
skating
haven't
one
taken
time.
on the ski slopes
Oh,
or
yeah.
sledding down Miners Park.
But you're
Hills.
gonna get out of your bag this first aid kit.
I think
just
for
in the middle of the
what
snow.
you get out of them, if no one's asked, but I think holding on the first aid kit till next year and we have them, we know what it would be.
Yeah.
We can see how much of the other ones we reuse and, create a little bit of jealousy, like, oh, can I get a dog food bag holder? No, but
Exactly.
like, if I see you walking with your dog and we're at one of the events, like. there,
Totally,
we've got
totally
some-
got you.
Does a dog poop bag holder dispenser come with poop bags? Cause I'd say axe that one, it doesn't come with poop bags.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know if it comes with a roll or not, but
It doesn't look like it does.
any of us dog owners, you
Oh, no,
just get
it
the
comes
roll.
with it.
Does it come with it?
20 disposable bags.
Okay.
So those are some.
Just something.
I'm fine with dropping the first aid kits out, does anybody else have a strong opinions?
I really like those.
Yeah.
I think everyone uses those. I think
Yeah.
like parents would love those and grownups. I just feel like, I really like the first aid.
Okay.
Just because it's, so I'm just saying that the reusable bag, I feel like Aces does that and a couple others, so.
I also have like 50.
Yeah, and we all have like 100 in the back of our
Yeah.
cars. So that's the one I feel like we could drop because I feel like we get so many, like I got like the new boba place, yeah.
Yeah.
So I got they hand them out for everything now, so I feel like that one can be dropped, but I feel like you don't see I love this first aid kit. This one's not a cheap one that you picked. It really
No,
has.
I'm a parent. Like,
Yeah.
if I don't have access to the
Yeah.
first aid kit in the back of the van, like, oh man, you got
And
it.
that's something like people will use, absolutely.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter how old you are.
Love it. Let's scratch the tote bag and then I can work, I guess through Brian and we'll get the design files and whether I do it or however.
I mean, we have an account with 4M in print, so I can, I'll take out the tote bags, I'll send them links, quantities, logo. And they'll send a draft and I'll work with you on that.
Yay.
Can you pull up the hat? Are you good? Did I get a hat that you're okay with?
Yeah.
Jen is like that.
Yeah.
If you look at this, I really wanted to put a link on here for you because it was like a short brimmed foam hat. And I was like, that's what Kawish is thinking.
That's so funny.
That's what it is.
Well, that's about one of those like
Though.
cheese hats.
I really
Yeah.
think that once this logo gets out on some
Yeah.
things, that the town itself is gonna be like, okay, we're just gonna put these
And
on
I'm-
everything, yeah.
It's a lot
we'll take
nicer
it
than
over.
that.
It's a
Everyone
cool
will have
logo.
shirts,
And we can
everyone
figure
will
out,
have
because some of them you can do more than one thing, right? Like there's a front and a back, and so we can
Yeah.
pick which of those parts we really want to use. So I'll work with you, Brian, on that, and we'll let the designer probably weigh in too. We got all the files, but
All right.
there you go.
Excellent, I like it.
What about dropping the stickers if the town's not jazzed about it?
Oh,
I actually love this
I love the
sticker idea,
stickers,
like for the kids to put
Yeah.
on water bottles.
Who
I think
doesn't have
that was
water
something else, like
bottles? Yeah,
everybody's
sorry.
slapping
Yeah,
it on a
hold it down, yeah.
laptop. Right there, like that right size for a laptop or for whatever else, and depending on what's left with the budget, I actually think that's where I would
Yeah.
increase them,
Yes.
because then they're easier to hand out and.
Agreed. Those are
I
gonna
got some
go.
space.
They're gonna go very
They're
fast,
gonna go.
right? Do you guys like stickers still?
I just,
Yeah, okay, cool.
they have to clean them up of town property.
Yeah.
Yes.
that's the only,
It's gonna happen. At least it's the town. All
Yeah.
right, cool, I like it. 3F, Marshall Fire Subcommittee update.
we moved the meeting, so.
Okay. Next month again.
Next month again.
Kicking that game.
That's
Well,
okay.
yeah, no, it was, we kept it open longer because people didn't know about it until we just moved the meeting
I
till
believe you, I just-
Monday. I swear I'm
I
going.
trust. Okay, 4A, new business update, for A, updates from town staff and or trustee liaison. Town staff.
Yeah, so I know we were gonna have a busy November agenda, like you guys discussed, but, we will need to, right, when we do the agenda, Lisa Ritchie from our planning department, our planning director is gonna come and, I think she's going to all the committees, give an update on the comprehensive plan. So, he's it shouldn't be real time consuming, but just keep that in mind and Brent will put that on the agenda. Something I forgot to mention when I gave the budget update was the board did have questions on Monday, I believe, about the block party trailer fee. So we do have a proposed $50 fee in the 2025 budget to reserve the block party trailer. And a lot of that's just to cover the administrative work, the back and forth with the person reserving it, the permitting, public works, staff time, Parks Department, transporting it to and from the location. So this one, obviously you guys are involved in that, with that project. So just wanted you to be aware that there's, as of now, $50. What's that?
What's the interest level?
Oh, well, it's, I think it's been reserved 4 times total. Over, I mean, obviously it's ending here at the end of October. So there's no more the remainder of the year, but
It's only been available for
yeah, I mean, it was used, since the last month's meeting, it was used, a resident used it at Grassroot Park. And then we had a resident use it at a cul-de-sac in, what's that, the development, before Sagamore, gosh dang it, what was that, not Rogers?
Coal Creek Crossing?
Coal Creek Crossing, yeah. We had a resident use it there, so yeah, it's,
Do you know if they sent you guys pictures or anything? Just,
yes,
that'd be so cool to see.
yes.
We have like a hashtag.
Oh, yeah, I was gonna say, oh, that'd be better, yeah.
Yeah, actually Isaac, who was here, who did the group
Oh.
photo, he was at the last one, he got some photos. And I think he's using those in the next Hello Superior, but yeah, I can get those out to you guys, yeah.
Really great. Was it popular at the Chili Fest? Cause that's where it was, right, the first time?
Yeah, I mean,
I mean, people were like, we were in the back corner, so it was a little weird.
I know.
Those who came over to us was like, oh my God, this is so cool. And I'm like, I know, right?
Yeah.
That was pretty much most of the conversations we had. Was like,
Everyone was very.
Okay.
Sweet.
and the only other update, Leslie's on here, I think she's just gonna give an update from the board meeting on the First Avenue Bridge, Grasso Park, Leslie.
Can I say something first?
Actually, Jen, sorry,
Sorry, Leslie.
Jen's.
It's about that. I just
Yeah.
I want to apologize to you guys because at our last meeting, for those that were here, it was a very like strong like feeling about wanting to have this and pushing, making sure that the board keeps moving on it. And I was misinformed and that therefore didn't inform you guys, but the staff did, there was a step missed that needs to be revisited. And I just it seemed like there was some contention between the committees, and I just want to make sure that I want to apologize if anything that I shared was incorrect or steered anybody in a direction. Like, I want to see it, and I think the end result will be the same,
Yes.
but we have to address that it was chaotic when there was some steps missed and we need to fix it, so.
So what was missing, or what was steps?
So, and maybe this is what Leslie's gonna update you on, but the project went from being a low water crossing bridge to a major pedestrian bridge. And I think if it had only been that, then it wasn't too far out of the scope of work. But also when you added in the ADA trail, it's, and then changing some modifications of what is now the trail, maybe making it stairs. And so all of that deserves some public review. Right, and I was under the impression that these were things that were already voted on, like that had already been approved, and I was wrong, and I gave you guys wrong information, and so I just wanna make sure you're aware of that and know that I think the intent is to keep moving this along, but people should be able to say what they wanna say about it, especially the people in the community that it's near.
And that makes a ton of sense, but I do want to say, like, we had outpouring
Yeah.
of public comment in favor of the project as currently planned.
As a board
Yeah.
needed to,
Yeah.
like, we got a lot of support from it, and so there's a party that's like, obviously everybody likes this, let's go, but that's not how this works.
Yep.
So we have to make it right and make sure that people have the opportunity to say what they want to say about it, and then make a decision from everybody's input versus where we're at right now.
What was the other thing, was the budget, was it $400,000 contribution from the town, or was it $400,000 total split between the town and the
No.
foundation?
It is 400 plus, maybe Leslie has better numbers, 'cause I think it's closer to 5 or maybe 6, but it's not, that's not right, but that is our part. and I think the total project is like 1.2 million or something, with Mile High Flood District paying, half, and, sorry, Leslie, I probably just took all of the thunder. But I don't want there to be I was concerned about trust in my, like, words to you guys, and I wanna make it right, and I didn't have the right information, and I apologize, so.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, and thank you, trustee Couch, for covering those items. And really what I wanted to let the committee know is that we are gonna kind of put the project on pause, go back and make sure we take care of those steps that were not taken care of before. One of the things that the town is going to do is we've hired a consultant to do an archaeological study, kind of an inventory of the area, to make sure we're not impacting, any important, historical things that are in the park. So we will do that. And then we are going to have some sort of a public meeting. I'm not sure how that's going to look or exactly when that's going to be yet. But that will be conducted, and we'll bring it back to the committees. But we want to make sure we have that public meeting first so that your meetings are not inundated with public comment about, we always, welcome public comment, but we want a forum for that specifically for this project. And then we'll bring the outcome of those things back to the committees, so you're well informed.
Can that consultant also do playground estimates?
That would be very talented, wouldn't it?
Wow, that sounds like an expensive consultant, an archaeological.
Yeah, Leslie, how much is that for that consultant? I'm just curious.
They have different levels that they provide. They have what they call a class 1, which is basically a review of documents. And the history, and they'll go back through and make sure, we have all of that recorded. And then there's a class 3 where they actually come out on site, and we are going to do the class 3, which includes the class 1 information as well. But they come out and do an on-site kind of inventory of the area, and look at, everything from the buildings that are there to things that may be on the ground that people haven't even noticed, if there's some other buildings, foundations, artifacts, those kind of things. So they'll look at both of those, and it ranges in depth and time that you want people to spend on that, but I believe it's about $9,600 that'll be to conduct that.
Thank you.
10th of a shade structure.
Yeah, that's way better than I thought. All right.
Do we get a solution for the vending setup here?
Wow,
Yeah, go look at it.
There's a whole like kind of storefront, it's not apples to apples, but you can take a look out there, we've had it for a while.
Okay.
Yeah, it works for now.
Any other updates from town staff?
No other updates.
Done? Cool. Okay. Great. 4B, planned attendance and focus for November, December meetings in 2024. Well, I feel like we kind of did this one. Was there anything else we were supposed to talk about here, Brian? I think that was...
Well, no, it was kind of covered in previous, couple of the previous agenda items. It's no need to probably rehash it, but it's more just.
Just come
to the meetings.
Is anyone planning to not be here for those meetings?
I'm looking what day it is.
I should probably do the same.
It would be the November 20th.
Is
that right?
Stand by. Yes, 20th. And then the December meeting would be the 18th. As far as I know, I will be here for both of them.
Glad I didn't pick my concert to be on that day.
Good job.
I was just like, oh no. The 18th.
Okay.
I will be late.
Okay, I don't need like
Conflict on the 20th.
super solid commitments for people, I just want to know generally. You know, want to make sure like wasn't gonna be half the people were like, yeah. we would get- That would not. Okay, I know we have a couple members absent, so we'll maybe reach out to them and find out. Okay, great. 4C, summary points and meeting. You can just kind of say like 3 or 4 things.
Oh, yeah, there was a lot. I'm also recording it, so.
There was a
it's-
lot of
Yeah,
stuff.
yeah, so just a high overview, I would say a big part was our budget that we spoke about. And we spoke about the North Pole renovations was a big part of that and park projects. We are also setting up a meeting. We're waiting for the bond measure. It's a big item at this meeting, and a lot is waiting on that. And that's gonna tell us what November's meeting looks like and December's meeting. We're moving a few items to next month. Next month is gonna be a very busy meeting. Also, we've decided on park swag, which is exciting. I think we're moving forward finally, and we'll get to put an order in. Hiring, sorry, I'm just so excited for hiring an archaeologist. I'm like, oh, we're hiring. Just, yeah.
Never done that before.
And the big things obviously is a few of the meetings, like so the Marshall Fire meeting was moved to next month. Is that what you said?
It's on Monday.
Oh, Monday, okay.
Yes, sir.
And they talked about, just that the block party admin is a $50 fee, and whether or not we're gonna move forward with that. So I think those were the big items, but a big part was talking about, and then also our list that we're gonna be doing homework for before next meeting.
Cool,
So
thank you.
that's it, yeah.
All right, the 8:23.
Boom, done.
Boom, done.
Well, did.
By the time you guys meet next time, we will